leading shot blocker. Notre Dame in the home whites. Louisville in the black. Tip off, set, and here we go. Notre Dame coming in at 21-6 on the season and quickly going to Dotson, and Dotson picking up the offensive foul, her first personal, and that's going to be key to watch in terms of foul trouble because that's what hampered her in their last meeting. Taking a look at the Louisville lineup, we mentioned Van Lith and Inksler. Kiana Smith is an X-factor for the Cardinals, along with Chelsea Hall and Olivia Cochran rounding out the Cardinals, coming in at 23-3 overall and knocking down the shot quickly. Emily Inksler, you talked about her in the open, and boom, she comes out with a big shot. For the Fighting Irish, a couple of dynamic freshmen on this team, but don't give Dara Mabry a chance to set up and spot up and shoot. Maddie Westbeld, also the reigning ACC Rookie of the Year. The pass inside to Dotson, can't finish around the rim. Good ball movement around the perimeter. Hall flips it inside to Cochran, spin move, and a big elbow inside. The offensive foul called against the sophomore Cochran.
This is something that Citron worked at in practice, defending the block and the paint out of that 2-3 zone that Notre Dame will play today. And the freshman stepping up, drawing the charge. And the pace of this game, you already feel it's going to be up-tempo. It's going to be fast.
Good crowd on hand for the final game of the regular season as both teams prepare for the ACC tournament next week in Greensboro, North Carolina. Miles thought about it. 7 to go on the shot clock. Handed off to her fellow freshman, Sonia Citron, and Citron just off the mark. Inksler bringing down the rebound. Kiana Smith back inside to Inksler, who tried to dump it to Cochran. Good vision there. And that's one of the things that Jeff Walls loves about Emily Inksler. He said, we got a chance to see her at Syracuse, and obviously we played her a number of times, but now having her on our team just helped us level up a little bit more in his 15th season as the head coach of this program.
Well, and the success you're seeing from Inksler, you know, he's not drawing up a bunch of plays for her. She goes out and gets it. Look, she grabs the rebound, she starts the break. She might even get this rebound.
Good look there at Inksler, the senior out of New York, started her career at Syracuse, had 16 career double-doubles. She just finds a way to get the basketball to go in the bucket and to grab it off the board. You talked about her versatility.
You mean me getting lost in the woods?
I love that. You know, that makes me think of backyardigans, into the thick of it. I want to be into the thick of it with Inksler as Chelsea Hall drops the mid-range jumper. And then good defense on the other end, the steal saving it. Van Lith, the numbers, and what a pass from Van Lith to Inksler. Right place, right time. And a quick 7-0 lead for the 4th-ranked Cardinals.
Well, exactly the start if you're Jeff Walls. Your defense leading your offense. Chelsea Hall with the steal, leads to Van Lith. That's pretty basketball. That's Cardinal basketball.
Louisville that got the best of Notre Dame, and among the things that we saw there, obviously out rebounding there, but Notre Dame saw Maya Dotson get into early foul trouble. We talked about how important she is to this group and her leadership. She's already got 1 foul in this game. How do they change that this time around?
I think they just have to settle down and handle the pressure for Louisville. And that was something Niele Ivey told me yesterday, that she hoped her team had learned, being in that environment, being in the Yum Center, and just how, you know, there is some inexperience. There's youth on this team that they took it, they lost, they wanted to learn from it, move on. You know, I think what also stood out in that first time was that Notre Dame, you know, they had more turnovers than assists, and this is one of the best teams in terms of sharing the basketball in this league. And so Louisville completely took them out of their game, right? So they just got to settle down. They ran a lot of sets, practiced a lot of offense, getting it inside to Dotson. She just got to be smart because Louisville's going to try to get her in foul trouble. That's the best defense against Maya Dotson, is putting her on the bench.
Hall knocking it down from 3, and again, a great start for Louisville, who always just seems to put the pressure on you. Their game Thursday against Pitt, not their best offensive showing, doesn't matter because they find ways to win games, and so far asserting themselves on the floor here inside the Purcell Pavilion.
And Tiffany, the slow start surprises me a little bit. Notre Dame has played really well at home this year. They're 13-0 at home. They're riding that streak, and Louisville just come out in this first quarter, Tiffany, and just absolutely hit first.
Swinging it around, Kiana Smith, who had a good game against them the last time, and Louisville continuing to put their foot on the gas in the opening minutes of this game. Notre Dame has missed all 4 of their shots. Miles taking a look over to Westbell. Westbell looking inside to Sam Brunel. Instead, Westbell back to the top of the key. 5 to go. Miles, the crossover, step back 3 off the mark.
Talked about the ball movement for Louisville. That's 1 pass, 2 pass, 3 pass. You find the open shooter. All you got to do is move the ball. It looks simple. It's easy. But you keep your head up and you make the extra pass, and it works.
This team continuing to make the right pass, as Louisville has now assisted on 5 of their 6 buckets, as they've been perfect from the floor thus far. Anaya Peoples into the ball game, drops it down to Westbell. Westbell with that contested shot and altering it there just slightly. Olivia Cochran inside.
They worked on that for 15 minutes yesterday in practice. The high-low, coming off the on-ball, looking for their post player on the roll. They're getting that look, but the recovery for Louisville has been tremendous, and just the fact that they can block the shot and then turn around and put it into points.
Well, this is a group that's playing some great basketball right now, as Van Lith and the Cardinals can't seem to miss here. Haley Van Lith.
Somebody call heat check.
Woo! Okay. And this one is turning ugly quickly. Nearly stolen away, recovered by the Irish, and Maya Dotson finally getting the first field goal of the game for Notre Dame. Smith, the bounce pass inside to Cochran, and Smith right there just short on the floater.
Gotta look for Brunel.
She was asking for it, dumps it inside, and too strong from Dotson. Dotson running the floor, trying to get back and defend, and last deflected by Louisville.
I mentioned Van Lith just has some simplicity to her game, and she really reads defense as well. That's where she's really grown now in her sophomore year. She's not going to take a bunch of shots. She averages just 12 a game. She's not taking 18, 19 shots. She sees her moments, she makes them. I think she's grown up too. That's something Jeff Walls talked about, is just improving her game from her freshman year to her sophomore year. She's done so.
She's been shooting the ball well from deep over the last 10 games in ACC play. She's stepped it up all the more. And another turnover registered for Notre Dame, now number 3 on the game.
We can get to their offense later, Tiffany. They need stops against Louisville. I mean, there's been way too many open threes, late movement.
And again, the sharp shooting of Haley Van Lith. We just mentioned how well she's done in terms of producing from beyond the arc, about 48% during ACC play and from the field. And Van Lith is helping to stretch out this lead, and you've got to come up with stops. And that's what Louisville is doing on the defensive end as well, applying that pressure.
a better start if you're Louisville. And the way that, when Haley Van Lith is playing as aggressive and as confident, and the team just continues to feed off of her. But offensively, Tiffany, just the outpouring efficiency that we've seen from the Cards so far has been really impressive.
Shooting 89% from the floor. They're perfect from deep. 5 of 5. And out of bounds on the Cardinals, so Notre Dame gets the ball back. Sonia Citron, one of those dynamic freshmen for Niele Ivey. And they, along with nobody else on the team, have really been able to jumpstart anything. Kiana Smith with the handoff from Liv. That one rolls around as well. You couldn't ask for a better start, you mentioned, Steffi, than what we're seeing out of Louisville right now.
Well, the pace with which the Cards are shooting from the three, it's unlikely they can sustain it right for 4 quarters. So you got to weather this storm, but you got to start scoring too. You got 2.5. You got to get some buckets.
Westbell sees that one blocked by Inksler. The length of Inksler helps to extend this Cardinals defense.
Got Van Lith jumping up for that hustle play. I mean, this is kind of the identity of Louisville. It's the hustle plays, it's grit, it's toughness, get up in your face, defend. But then when their offense is like this,
right.
That's why they're capable of being a Final Four team.
Darren Mabry, single digits on the shot clock, takes it back out, reassesses, guarded by Liz Dixon, the deep three, and it's off the mark. Robinson inside to Dixon, the Georgia Tech transfer. And Haley Van Lith, oh my goodness. The rim is as wide as this world. Haley Van Lith can't ever seem to miss. She's channeling her inner Dana Evans and saying, watch out, ladies and gentlemen, introducing Haley Van Lith.
None of their defense is working right now against Louisville.
Shocking start to this ball game, and especially with what's at stake for Notre Dame, wanting to remain perfect at home, as you mentioned, Steffi, and also trying to knock off another top 5 team. They were able to do so against NC State earlier this season, back on February 1st. But right now, the struggles of the Irish ever so apparent, and there, Olivia Miles fouled on the take.
Just a blistering start for Louisville. I mean, 83% from the floor. And look, the last time they met, Notre Dame shot 9% from 3. And I thought, geez, you can't shoot worse than that, right?
Yeah.
Well, here we are. But it's good for Olivia Miles to get to the free throw line. You know, Louisville's going to try and force her left. She's very strong, right-hand dominant player. She can make a tremendous amount of plays, so they're going to force her left. She took that last time to the basket with her left hand. She gets fouled, get her some confidence. They obviously look for her. She leads the team in scoring, but they're trying to establish Maya Dotson. But I think they got to get some movement along the perimeter, inside out, screen, re-screen, really make Louisville defend more than one action.
A whistle, foul on the inside. Peyton Verhulst, her first personal foul. And you see the run that Louisville has gone on in nearly 6 minutes of play. Just short there. Up ahead on the break and pulling it out and allowing the Cardinals to reset. Dixon working on Dotson. Nice move inside, and literally everything that has flipped up at the basket has seemingly gone down for the Cardinals.
Well, people watching at home are like, Louisville, not only do they defend, oh my God, how do we guard them? Scoring inside, scoring outside.
And you can see this Louisville team came out with a mission in mind. They are completely focused. They've won 7 of their last 8 in the month of February, averaging 77 points a game. And shooting 46% from the field. They've nearly doubled that in this first quarter. And one of the rare misses from the Cardinal, stolen away by Chelsea Hall. Citron puts it up before the end of the quarter. And what a dominating start.
Remarkable. I think it's and also speaks to his coaching philosophy, his style. Listen, he was really honest with the media and his team and within the past few weeks saying we could be in the Final Four or we could lose in the second round of the NCAA tournament. That keeps you on your toes if you're a player.
As Chelsea Hall opens the quarter with a bucket, most points scored this season by Louisville in a quarter, and the fewest given up by the Cardinals. And if you have that combination when you're talking about playing in the postseason, bodes well for you. This group made it to the Elite 8 last year before dropping to Stanford, but a couple of national runners-up the last time in 2013. And Jeff Walz feels like this group can make it to a program 4th Final Four under his leadership.
Well, let's talk about the portal because they got Chelsea Hall from Vanderbilt. She's got experience. He recruited her out of high schools between her and Dana Evans. Dana Evans committed, and they went with Evans, which was obviously a solid choice, but full circle, Chelsea Hall plays for Jeff Walz now. And then Emily Enksler coming over from Syracuse. Those are 2 players that can really elevate the experience that was already on this Louisville team.
If you're Notre Dame, what's your mindset? What does Niele Ivey tell her team to try to get them to come back in this ball game, as it's been a really rough start?
Well, we weathered the storm, right? It's impossible for them to keep this up for 3 more quarters. So now we're not going to get back all 30 points in the next 5 minutes. So you break it down into 3 or 4 minute segments. Let's get 4 stops in a row, 5 stops in a row. That's kind of something that they were working at in practice. Chip away at the lead, slowly chip away at the lead, getting rebounds, but making things difficult for Louisville offensively. Like I said, we've watched the ball movement. It's just been too easy. The shots have been wide open.
And the rebounding also in favor of the Cardinals. They out-rebounded them the first time. And here again today, 16 rebounds for the Cardinals compared to just 4 for the Irish.
So one thing we do have to talk about, Tiffany, is the lack of depth for Notre Dame. Niele Ivey really only has 7 players that she can go to. So Louisville does have a much more extended bench. And so in times like this, you know, Miles goes to the bench. That's your leading scorer. Mabry will run the point. Someone's going to have to step up and really start scoring some buckets for Notre Dame.
Van Lith skying in for another rebound. And a foul called against the Irish, Anaya Peoples.
Been impressed with Van Lith today?
For sure. I think you did a great job there in highlighting her in the open. I mean, Enksler came out sharp, but Van Lith has stolen the show thus far. 9 points for Haley Van Lith. She'll take a breather. Kiana Smith right around the bucket, and a number of those shots, like you said, Steffi, just coming easy for the Cardinals. They've won 5 of the last 6 meetings with the Irish, and they're going into the bucket as good by nearly an average of 23 points, and so they're well on pace for that and more.
Notre Dame's going to have to stop trying to shy away from the contact, and they're going to have to try and match the physicality that Louisville has really demonstrated this entire game. Louisville's going right at Notre Dame. Notre Dame backing away, back on their heels.
Looked like maybe a traveling violation not whistled against Hall, and Enksler sees a fist pump from her coach, Jeff Walls, who is just absolutely pumped up with the way this team has come out to play here on this Sunday
You're telling me
matinee.
that there's like a little bit of a rivalry, that these teams maybe don't like each other that much?
I don't think they care for each other too much. I think there's, you know, a little bad blood. They've met a few times in the NCAA tournament. Coming up at 2:30 Eastern over on ESPN, and the app our Sunday afternoon AAC basketball doubleheader rolls on with Wichita State squaring off against Penny Hardaway and Memphis at the FedEx Forum. Talk about what's been happening yesterday in men's basketball. Wow, the top 6 teams in the country going down.
Yeah, Lenardi's scrambling right now. He's got Memphis on the bubble, so that's definitely going to be an interesting game. But I mean, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen on the men's side.
To St. Mary's, Neil Ivy's son, Jaden Ivey, with the Purdue Boilermakers, losing in the last seconds to Michigan State.
You know, what was so remarkable is that I was watching practice yesterday, and their SID was watching Jaden Ivey play for Purdue. He had the game pulled up. And Neil Ivy's coaching, running practice. No idea her son's got the ball in his hands. They're down by 2, 30 seconds left, and we're gripping our face. What's going to happen? And she talked about that balance, and they're both living their dreams, but it has been a sacrifice.
What a relationship that's been forged between mother and son, both brought together in the game of basketball. I don't know what else you say about this Louisville team other than they look like they are ready to play deep into the tournament, and they want to try to vie for that tournament title that's been won the last couple of seasons by NC State.
I mean, this is not the same team that started against Pitt on Thursday, Tiffany. And I think you look at this score, 45-4. Did anyone see this coming?
No.
Notre Dame, the last 2 games, looked really good coming into this game, confident, an opportunity to stay undefeated at home.
And right now they just have to find something that works, and Maya Dodson gets some cheers out of the crowd as the scoring drought for Notre Dame relieved there on that bucket. Inksler in the corner, too strong. Citron coming down with the rebound. Well, Citron and Miles, 2 really dynamic freshmen, only Power 5 school to have 2 freshmen averaging in double figures. But either really getting anything going.
Continued defensive pressure from Inksler. The Syracuse transfer making her case for ACC Defensive Player of the Year, but unselfish too, delivers the dime.
At the half.
Absolutely, John. Look forward to hearing your guys' analysis of this game, because Charlie Cream had them as a #1 seed in the last NCAA reveal. Obviously, they're pretty sure of a lock-in with this performance here. But again, the looks on the faces inside Purcell Pavilion are just
shocked,
in awe. Like, what is happening? What is going down? Jerome Bettis in the building, Skylar Diggins-Smith, 2 Notre Dame greats in their respective sports, and not the showing that they wanted to come out with to open this ball game.
You know, I'd really like, I know the score is, you know, shocking to people who just tune in or that have been watching, and Skylar Diggins is like, someone bring me a jersey, right?
Yeah.
I'd like to see some more fight that I really associate with Notre Dame. More passion, and I know when it's so lopsided, you lose sight of that, but that fight and that hunger is really what you can rely on to just chip away at a lead, or just building momentum, keeping the audience involved as well, and the fans. It seems like there's one pass and players are obviously deflated, hanging their heads, body language hasn't been great. You contrast that with Louisville. They're just soaring right now.
Well, Citron said after that win Thursday against Clemson that this was a confident yet hungry group. They felt like it was important for them to lock up that double bye in the ACC tournament, and they held their emotions in check for senior night. Niele Ivey said that was important too, but she felt like this was a team that was clicking at the right time and reaching their potential. Inside to Ingsler, great ball movement all ball game long, and Haley Van Lith remaining perfect from beyond the arc, 4 of 4 from deep. She's got a dozen points.
Again, the ball movement, 2 passes, and you've got a wide open shooter. And just Notre Dame has been not 1 step, not 2 step, but 3 steps too slow today, and that's really hurt them. As Jeff Wall is a master at coming up with plays and figuring out ways to really execute in the half court, making it look easy.
Olivia Miles on the take,
There we
dump
go.
off to Dotson, and that's good offense if you're a Notre Dame fan.
If you're Olivia Miles, 2 feet in the paint, you dump it off to Dodson. That's a recipe for success. But she finished, more importantly.
And the steal from Notre Dame on the break. Here's Miles going in, and the take, yes.
Oh.
Wait a minute. Mikasa Robinson and Olivia Miles. A little chippy there.
Chippy? Between these two? No.
You know, just feeds into, you know, how much these two teams like each other. Fans inside, Purcell giving their opinion as well.
Well, Olivia Miles, this is what I'm talking about. Just a creative playmaker, holds the ball with that one hand, and Robinson didn't like something.
She didn't like the look afterward, the stare down that Miles gave after the make.
Then you got a Mabry involved. There's always a Mabry involved for Notre Dame, right?
And considering the fact, I mean, this is one of those times where you have to talk to your freshman in Olivia Miles. Obviously, yes, the make, but you're still down by a good chunk of points. And yes, you want to see that attitude and that swag kind of come out, but that's not the time to do it.
You want to make your layup and get down on the other end of the court. To me, Tiffany, they're going to review, you know, obviously the previous instance. Just looked to me, just maybe a double technical between the two of them. But there was a little bit of dialogue between Van Lith and I couldn't see who else. So here's the play. Robinson
Now see
Miles,
the look Miles gives here.
Yep.
Gets in her face, and
one
Robinson
shove,
didn't care for
here
it.
comes the shove back, right? Okay.
Right.
Van Lith reminding Miles to score, I'm assuming. So I think it's just between the two of them.
So it appears Miles may have approached Robinson first there. You talked about the fight from Notre Dame, and obviously some frustration building with the Irish with the start, but perhaps that is kind of the Kickstarter for this group.
It's probably not what Niele Ivey drew up,
Right.
In terms of what's going to get your team going. I think you could have delivered that play, maybe made a face without the shoving. But nonetheless, hey, look, they're looking for a spark. They're at 10 points now, obviously down by a sizable lead, but.
Well, a quick reminder that our final Big Monday doubleheader of the regular season, the Boeheim brothers lead Syracuse against North Carolina at the Dean Smith Center at 7 Eastern. Then it's a big one in the Big 12. Number 10 Baylor is in Austin to take on number 20 Texas. Both games are on ESPN and the ESPN app. We stick with Baylor on the women's side, and an all-important game for the Bears tomorrow at 7 Eastern right here on ESPN2 as the Big 12 regular season title up for grabs as they face off against Iowa State in Ames.
Well, Alyssa Smith trying to make the case for a #1 overall draft pick. I mean, I think it's going to be really interesting how that shakes up between Ryan Howard, Shakira Austin, Alyssa Smith. She'll have a big audience watching her on Monday, and these were my national headlines. Paige Buckers, she's back, right? I am so curious what's going to happen with UConn since she's back and on the court. I was present for Aaliyah Boston breaking Sylvia Fowles' SEC record for 20 straight double-doubles. Awesome on Gary Blair's final night in Reed Arena. And then Caitlin Clark, I mean, she continues to light it up. I mean, she has been having an absolute monster year. I still think Aaliyah Boston is your national player of the year, but Caitlin Clark, a sophomore, what she's been doing, unbelievable.
I was gonna say, who do you think is the leading candidate in your mind for National Player of the Year? Those two are obviously great candidates, and if you've watched Aaliyah Boston and the dominance that we've seen from South Carolina this season, Boston could very well be a clear pick to some, but Caitlin Clark has also done a masterful job out there with the Hawkeyes. So they're still reviewing this here and conferring at midcourt, going back to the scorers table to get some greater clarification here. 2:49 remaining in the first half.
One on Robinson and #4, Notre Dame. Have another foul on Mabry and number 10 for taunting. So we had double intention on the push.
So was it Van Lith and Mabry? So I mentioned the action that happened after Miles and Robinson. Clearly the officials thought it was enough.
And so now the coaches having a conversation with the officials at half court. So all of those fouls were whistled as intentional fouls, okay? So that goes against Mabry and Miles for Notre Dame, Robinson and Van Lith for Louisville. And essentially
nullifies.
They cancel each other out.
Louisville ball.
Well, glad we got a chance to really dissect and really check into who was all involved in the play and after the play. While we have time, we can tell you about Haley Van Lith, who has just been on one today.
Well, to say the least, and she plays so smooth because she takes what the defense gives her, never plays outside of herself. These are open shots she's creating off of their half-court offense. But then the hustle plays like this to keep extending plays, making good decisions, good reads, all around solid game for Haley Van Lith. I love, you know, my mom's, she's a big fan, right? She always watches us. She goes, number 10, she's got good braids like you had when you played. So, hey, shout out to my mom. Thanks, Mom, for recognizing.
Now, were you responsible for the braid or was a teammate?
Teammate.
Okay. You know, because that would have been extra talent. I would have given you some extra points there, Steffi, had you been able to do the French
player,
braid on your own.
Oh, no.
Now Niele Ivey continuing to keep this conversation going, both coaches and officials.
And if you think about the stretch of all the reviews, the play, how much time has gone off. We see Van Lith, she's jumping up and down. These players haven't played. And you think about how well Louisville's shooting. Does that get them out of rhythm?
Shooting 74% from the field, 89% from three-point range. And Van Lith is just trying to stay as loose as possible for the final 2 minutes and 49 seconds of this first half. Now cheers from the crowd with Louisville in possession. Hall launches it, 3, no good. Dixon with the rebound, kicking it back out. And Inksler has her pocket picked by Citron. Mabry gets it to rattle home. Dara Mabry, you mentioned that name ever so familiar around these parts. Sister Michaela and Marina also played for Notre Dame. Michaela on staff here with the Fighting Irish. Van Lith being face guarded now by Miles. On the take, kicking it out. Smith coming a little bit closer. No good. And Emily Inksler, you talked about the importance of her second chance opportunities. Lead to that bucket going down from Van Lith.
Rebounding is just absolutely destroying Notre Dame and their ability to get back in this game, because it's not the first shot, it's now becoming the second shot for Louisville. They're getting second opportunities and making the most of them.
Mabry, quick release, yes! So her sister, Marina, has a school record in terms of three-pointers. And that sharp shooting runs in the Mabry family. Kiana Smith can't answer on the other way, but again, you talked about it, Steffi, these second chance opportunities. 3 looks at the basket, and Van Lith is true. Haley Van Lith, 16 points to pace all scorers in this ball game.
You have to credit the Cardinals with their, relentless pursuit of the basketball. Notre Dame trying to rebound out of that 2-3 zone, and just to no avail.
Inksler wanting it more, up ahead, nobody in front of Smith. Yes, in transition, the Cardinals clicking. After putting up just 3 points in the first quarter, Notre Dame has a dozen here in the second quarter. Miles with the move. And no shot before the end of the half. The most points put up in a half by Louisville this season. 54 points by the Cardinals, and the 4th-ranked team in the nation, looking mighty. Extra dominant on the boards as well, out-rebounding the Irish 26-8, creating extra opportunities for this offense, and Van Lith has been gunning it down from outside. What a performance on the road thus far for Louisville. Now let's go to John Brickley, the Hall of Famer Rebecca Lobo, and Andy Landers with the E-Trade halftime report. This Louisville team get out to such a giant lead. Start of the second half as Notre Dame trailing by a whole lot if you're looking at the score. And Haley Van Lith, who was magical in that first half with 16 points, missing the opening shot of the second half.
Tiffany, halftime can be a really great neutralizer if you're a team facing a really hot shooting team, right? If I was on a roll from the three-point line one game and I had to go into the break, I hated it because I knew the second half I might not be as dialed in or not be able to hit all of my shots like I did in the first half. So listen, Notre Dame couldn't get much worse, right? Louisville shot absolute lights out. So can the Cardinals sustain that shooting for the next 2 quarters?
That's the question mark around this group. But it was kind of all things coming together as Miles got a piece of it, but also a piece of the hand of Olivia Cochran on the way up. Miles' second personal foul, and let's look at it again.
Did she get the hand? Because yeah, a little bit.
Yep.
I see you skying up there though, Freshie.
Well, she is a dynamic player, as we've mentioned already. Just awesome to watch, but we haven't gotten to fully see that on display here. There's still a second half of basketball, and Notre Dame typically comes out in the third quarter after making those adjustments at halftime, looking good.
Yeah, it's their strongest quarter so far on the season, so just curious offensively if they can really get back to what they want to do, get the ball into Dotson, hit some threes. Sonia Citron is a player who's made a case for ACC Freshman of the Year. She's been held in check. There we go, Dotson.
That's what they wanted to do in the first half, and so good signs here in the third quarter as Dotson registering her 9th point of the game. Inside to Cochran. Going right at the ACC leading blocker, and no ma'am. Just a quick finger wag from you, Steffi.
This is why we talked about her at the top. Her ability to change shots, anchor the paint. She's only 6'3", her wingspan much bigger than that, but rebounding again problematic for Notre Dame.
Kiana Smith measuring up the shot, no good. Citron with the rebound. They want to see Citron get going. She's been great the last few games. Dotson again attacking the rim. She's fouled on the way up, and she'll shoot a couple.
And clearly Niele Ivey wants to establish Dotson early in their half-court offense, and they were able to do it really in the first half, Tiffany, but it was either steals or it wasn't a clean look or someone wasn't able to finish. So a good sign for the Fighting Irish to start the third quarter. Will Louisville stay a little bit cold from the floor, or can they get the ball inside?
Inksler on the take, and a strong move from Emily Inksler. At 9 points in the first half. She's got 11 now. Miles with that dish to Dotson. Back out. And Miles, you watch her, little flashy player, leaves it up there for Citron. Freshman to freshman connection. And quickly, what have you seen in terms of the adjustments coming out of the locker room for Notre Dame?
Well, just the energy and the attack. I mean, they looked afraid in the first 20 minutes. They don't look afraid right now. They're really seeking, you know, in their half-court offense to score. They're not settling, they're attacking.
Van Lith elevates, no good. Westbell up ahead to Miles. Miles, yes, she converts. So still a lot of room to chip away, and Jeff Wall's telling his group to settle down as the energy in this building picks up. Van Lith, what a pass inside. Cochran couldn't handle it. Smith was able to get to it. 5 on the shot clock. Right back into the hands. And another offensive rebound for Louisville. That's their 9th of the game.
And you're so frustrated for Niele Ivey because your team is defending for 30 seconds. You've got to get the defensive rebound.
Cochran right at Dotson, and again, hadn't learned her lesson as Dotson altered that shot. Miles behind the back. Westbell for 3, no good. Inksler Has it stolen away, slow to get up, coming up hobbling. As Citron just runs into a player, and they're pumping a little bit of life coming out of the locker room here for Notre Dame.
Well, I love the freshman Olivia Miles. She's such a good decision maker of when to score, when to pass, but in transition. Saw this earlier in the first quarter, but some signs of life, Tiffany. I mean, some energy, some emotion from the Fighting Irish, and the fans are here for it.
Remember, they're perfect at home this season, 13-0, trying to do so since that title team did it back in 2018. And among the unbeatens at home, Louisville did it at the KFC Yum Center since moving there. Michigan, along with South Carolina, also unblemished at home.
Come on, man.
Emily Inksler, you talked about her length. You talked about how she could just shred you apart in so many areas of the game.
She's an underrated passer, but just so skilled.
And getting a hand on that one right there is Inksler just stretching out. And Kiana Smith in transition, and again, another strong run from the Cardinals, and it's led by Emily Inksler. She's been doing damage in the ACC. That's why she was one of the best coming over from Syracuse, and now lining up with the Cardinals. Up ahead to Smith, and the Cardinals running. This Notre Dame team injected with some energy coming into this third quarter, and we saw Maya Dotson, who they tried to get going early. She has come out and looked her true form that she's been all season here in this third quarter.
I think Louisville really got the best of her in the first 20 minutes of the game, and now we're seeing the true Maya Dotson effect. I mean, she has been such a difference maker since she joined up with Niele Ivey this season, coming over from Stanford. Her numbers are across the board sky high from what she did at Stanford. She's finally healthy, and you know, she's the mama bear of the team. She knows the sense of urgency that it takes to pull this thing off.
Remember, she opted out of last season, but coming over, Niele Ivey talked about how much of a program changer Dotson is. Going right at her was Van Lith, and that shot was deflected. A second block of the ball game for Dotson on cue. The foul, and Citron will go to the line. Dotson, as you mentioned, has been kind of that mama bear and really embracing the youngins. What a women's basketball Big Monday matchup we have for you on ESPN2 and the app. The top two teams in the Big 12 square off. In Ames, number 5, Baylor takes on number 9, Iowa State. Our coverage begins at 7 Eastern, 6 Central. How about Baylor seeking a streak of 11 straight regular season conference titles? That is on the line. That's in jeopardy tomorrow.
Got Alyssa Smith, Ashley Jones. I mean, the Big 12 has been, it's been wild to watch this year. Always checking the scores, always watching games. Oklahoma's been a really nice story too, out of the Big 12. Of course, Aoka Lee for Kansas State scoring 61.
That was bananas. Good shot blocker as well. The pass to Citron. Citron on the tape, too strong. Dotson coming in, trying to get that rebound and has to protect herself. There's Peoples, who keeps it with them, and the bucket.
Peoples does that. She's kind of tangibles and defense, right place, right time.
One of the best defenders for this Notre Dame team. We'll see if she can be disruptive on this end, guarding Kiana Smith. The switch. And right now you just see so much more activity from Notre Dame, but better offense, and Kiana Smith able to make that shot.
Well, they're guarding better. I mean, they're getting the stance. They're making things a little bit tougher on Louisville. But look, I told you, highlight reel is Olivia Miles. She will deliver. When she gets the ball in open court, I mean, she is special.
And a player who has an incredibly bright future and could very well be the face of women's college basketball.
Again, I mentioned her ability with that right hand. And she is so capable of scoring with contact. And I mean, throw what you want at her. She's crafty around the rim. You don't see that a lot from a freshman.
First season out of Phillipsburg, New Jersey. Maya Dotson was whistled for her second personal foul, each team with 2. Liz Dixon, who transferred over from Georgia Tech, gets that one to rattle on down. A couple of seasons with this program, and again, you mentioned how Jeff Walls has utilized that transfer portal, but that's a common trend, he said, all around basketball for a good while now. Peoples with the move. Couldn't finish that one off. Dotson trying to run and get it. And last touch by the Irish.
Well, something that Notre Dame was really trying to work into their offense yesterday was that high-low. And what's happening is Liz Dixon is playing so far off of Maya Dotson. It's making that pass really hard to execute. It was easier in practice, right? But because you can't necessarily simulate what Louisville's going to do to you.
They just move so efficiently on the offensive end, and the way they've been able to share the basketball this afternoon has been like a clinic, as Miles answering back the other way. Olivia Miles now with 8 points for the Irish. Robinson, the pull-up game is true. So every time Notre Dame scores, there's seemingly an answer on the other end for Louisville coming up. With stops when needed as well. For those of you just tuning in, Steffi Sorensen, Tiffany Green here with you, and all were shocked if you were watching that first quarter. 31-3 advantage for the visitors. Louisville coming into Purcell Pavilion, where Notre Dame has been perfect. Haley Van Lith has been on fire in this ball game. As Miles sees the shot clock winding down and casually hits that jumper. A great half of basketball for the 4th-ranked team in the country, and Emily Inksler off the mark there. Way up ahead,
Great
Peoples to Brunell, and Brunell can't finish off the break. But in some respects, it's been that type of afternoon for Notre Dame.
And I talked about the depth of Louisville. If you take a look at who's out on the floor, he's got three players off the bench, 2 starters. It's not the case for Notre Dame.
One of the strengths of Louisville that will bode well come postseason play. And Mabry, who was trying to poke that away, can't believe she was whistled for the personal foul, and neither can Niele Ivey or her staff.
Or her big sis. She jumped out of her seat.
Time winding down in the 3rd quarter. Off the miss, Dotson with the rebound, and that does it. 19-7, it was new life for Notre Dame coming out of the locker room, still down by a lot. The Notre Dame great Skylar Diggins-Smith was in the building. She knows a thing or two about bracketology, and her Notre Dame Fighting Irish in as a 4 seed right now, according to the latest from Charlie Cream, 2 out of the ACC in terms of #1 seeds in NC State and Louisville.
You know, there's 6 ACC teams that are among the top 27 in the most recent net rankings, which is the best of any conference. Now, I'm just really curious what's going to happen, you know, following conference tournaments, and I think hosting is probably the most important. You know, being in a top 16 seed, I think Notre Dame is still safe despite the score to host. The game following us is LSU, Tennessee. Tennessee right on the cusp of hosting versus not hosting, and a good opportunity for Kelly Harper's team with a win over LSU to stay on that 4 seed.
Inside, and there's Liz Dixon. We were talking in the break, you know, Georgia Tech is one of those teams that was really good at one point. They have since faltered here late in the season, but they're a projected 7 seed, and one of the stories you've enjoyed following this year is Virginia Tech.
Yeah, I mean, Liz Kitley has been phenomenal, averaging 17 and 10, and putting Virginia Tech in a position to be in the NCAA tournament, and just, they've been a great story. And Asia Shepherd, I mean, she's so good behind the 3-point line. They've been a fun team, and the ACC tournament should be a good one. I know I always tune in.
For sure. For sure.
In
and
between
year,
my games at the SEC tournament.
Well, you know, you stay busy as Darren Mabry knocks down the triple. But if you think about it, 10 teams projected in the NCAA tournament. Obviously, Virginia Tech trying to get some momentum against NC State, which is the team that everyone's been chasing in the league for much of the season. What a job Wes Moore has done with the Wolfpack. And a look here as Wichita State and Memphis going head-to-head this afternoon at 2:30 Eastern. You can see it on ESPN and the ESPN app. Talk about one of those bubble teams, and the Tigers will host at FedEx Forum here. And at this point of the season, everything is all the more important. I think Jeff Walls made mention of the fact that there were 3 games that were guaranteed for him, and then after that, you just never know. This game, all right, a game at least in the ACC tournament, and then the first round of the NCAA tournament. After that, who knows? Inksler makes the tough shot, rolls it around.
It then comes up with, almost gets the steal, but what's so remarkable about her play, as we kind of talked about throughout the game, is she's not getting plays called for. These aren't screens and pick and roll. I mean, she goes out and hunts her points, which is why if I got lost in the woods, I'm taking Emily Inksler with me.
I'm loving.
We're finding a way to get out of the woods.
You're carrying out this theme, and I love it. I hope
committed.
that our viewers are appreciating it as well. She's just been able to navigate her way with this Louisville team, and sometimes it's hard when you're coming in. Chelsea Hall, who came over from Vanderbilt, sometimes it's hard to gel together with a new group and still maintain the level of success and skill that's commanded from a coach like Jeff Walls.
Well, and think about it too from a chemistry standpoint. You've got returners that are looking to get more playing time, more production, and then you've got portal kids that come in and they want to get double-digit minutes. So getting everybody all on the same page and buying in. I think the teams that have impact players and kids that came from the portal are at the top because there's been a collective buy-in.
Miles working on Hall. Back out. Brunel. Yes! Sam Brunell, the three-point specialist, who's also had this uncanny knack to bring it in a little bit closer and knock down some twos as well, expanding her game. Well, Notre Dame has done a great job defending against Haley Van Lith this second half. Had 16 points in that first half. She's been scoreless here since coming out of the intermission until right then.
Well, Kiana Smith has just, we haven't necessarily talked about her that much. She's got 20 for them. I mean, when Haley Van Lith went a little bit cold to start the third quarter, Kiana Smith, she stepped up, she scored. Here's Brunell. Crowd loves her.
And she gets them to stand to their feet again, or at least some good rounds of applause, as we've seen a different looking Notre Dame team coming out here in the second half. Dixon over to Van Lith. She heaves it up. Off the miss. Remember, she was perfect from long range before that one didn't fall. When you're talking about programs, you think about Niele Ivey, who was an All-American in this program, played for the Hall of Famer and legendary Muffet McGraw, won a national title with this group, and the turnaround that we've seen from this Notre Dame team from last season, 10-10 to now not making the tournament, and now they're a lock for this year's NCAA tournament.
It doesn't take long to watch 5 minutes of practice to know that she was the perfect person to take over after Muffet McGraw retired. I mean, the efficiency, her command for her team, and just the leadership. You know, she spent a year in the NBA with the Memphis Grizzlies. That experience, obviously being on the bench too for all the good times and championships with Muffet McGraw. But I really enjoyed watching the practice. I mean, it was just move on from one thing to the next. They didn't dilly-dally. It was just boom, 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 boom. And I know that the team really gravitates towards her and her leadership, because this is a young team.
Brunell going after her own rebound. Jump ball possession arrow stays in favor of the Irish. Miles going straight to the cup. And the whistle as she's fouled. Louisville still with a sizable lead here in this fourth quarter, and Van Lith always finding a nose for the basket. ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is brought to you by Wendy's new Hot Honey Chicken Sandwich. Also available on a biscuit at breakfast at participating U.S. Wendy's. Well, between Haley Van Lith and Emily Inksler, they've been going to work here this afternoon. And it's been Van Lith who's given them the lift that they've needed in this ball game, really to start out so strong.
A double-double for Emily Inksler, and just looking at her numbers and her impact. I mean, last time they played against Pitt on Thursday, 17 and 15, just a casual night for Emily Inksler, but already today 6 assists. So it's really not just points and rebounds, it's the steals, it's the deflections. Her impact is immeasurable at times for Louisville, and I know that Jeff Walz realizes that. He's got someone special.
Van Lith with the shot clock winding down. And he said Inksler is one of those players who just makes such a huge difference, much like Maya Dotson does for Notre Dame. 13 points for the graduate transfer. They swing it back inside to Cochran. Cochran short. And Miles, trying to grab that rebound, had a collision or was hit in the face on her way down. Sporting the glass goggle.
It's definitely been a physical game, and Miles takes a shot there to the face. Saw the official ask if she was okay. Kindly hit him with the nod. I'm good.
So Miles back to the line. Tomorrow, the tournament, a history of ACC men's basketball continues over on the ACC network with episode 7 that highlights some of the 80s at 9 Eastern. Then episode 8 breaking down 90 through 1997. You can catch it every Monday through March 7th. You can always see it, of course, on the ESPN app. Ricky Kono getting on the board.
You know, I'm looking forward to, Tiff.
What's it?
Coach K's last game at Cameron.
Yeah, it's gonna be special. When you think about kind of the dynasty that's been built with the Blue Devils, of blue blood of college basketball.
Offensive foul there for Sam Brunell, and it's been a tough season for her. She's been hampered by injuries. She's been coming off the bench. Look, she started every game her freshman year. There's been some ebbs and flows throughout her career, but she has that grittiness and the toughness that you associate with Notre Dame players.
Van Lith continuing to work in attack mode. 20 points now for Haley Van Lith. And back the other way is Anaya Peoples. I'll say this about Notre Dame. After being down by 39 at the half, they have since seen an uptick here in this second half, been much more competitive. Shots are dropping. They've come up with some stops. Just like right there, and things that they can build on going into next week's conference tournament.
We're talking about a Notre Dame team that upset NC State this year. Some really good wins on their resume. We did not see the same Notre Dame team to start the first 20 minutes of this game. We saw some fight and some grit in the second half.
And Neil Ivey electing to sub out Olivia Miles and Sam Brunell. And Sonia Citron at the line. Well, just a reminder, a women's basketball big Monday matchup we have for you on ESPN2 and the app. The top 2 teams in the Big 12 square off in Ames. Number 5, Baylor, taking on number 9, Iowa State. Get ready, get ready. Our coverage begins at 7 Eastern, 6 Central. Grab your popcorn and
so you're a popcorn
sit back
girl?
and enjoy
like,
it. Yes.
When you watch a game, you want popcorn?
I do want popcorn or some wings.
Ooh.
Never go wrong with some lemon pepper wings. But now I've got some Albany's World's Best chocolate that was given. It's chocolate-covered goodies that was dropped off to our table, and it's a South Bend special. So I may, gnaw on this tomorrow.
So the gentleman that handed us the bag of goodies, I will say he did find me on my way into the hallway earlier, and he said, Jen Hildreth and Debbie Antonelli said to take care of us. Thanks, Jen and Debbie. We appreciate it.
Appreciate you. They were on the call of Notre Dame's game Thursday here against Clemson on senior night. Mabry with a hesitation and gets that one to drop. Dara Mabry now with 12 points. Citron running to it, trying to corral it. Does so. Inside to Dotson, who's still in the ball game. partner. We're in the final minute and a half of
Yeah.
the regular season, coming to an end here in the ACC. And, you know, teams across women's basketball that you will have your eye on heading into conference tournaments.
Oh, when we were talking to Jeff Walls before the game, he was mentioning how, you know, back when UConn really went on those runs where they were just ranked opponents by 30, 40 points, just blowing people out, right? We don't necessarily have that right now in our game. We have such parity. We're talking about the Pac-12, Stanford, and Arizona, Oregon. Who's going to come out of there? And even amongst the ACC, the competitiveness we've seen too, the Big 12. I think, you know, as I head to Nashville for the SEC tournament.
It'll be back to Greenville.
Back to Greenville. Can someone take down South Carolina? They only have one loss on the season. You know, Jeff Walls did talk to us about Aaliyah Boston being, yeah, they've got the best player, but they did lose to Missouri. So I just can't wait. The Big Ten's been interesting too. Iowa, obviously with Caitlin Clark, but Michigan and Maryland. Maryland always finds a way to get into the hunt.
Right.
And Indiana's kind of taking some lumps right now, but I think the bottom line, Tiffany, as we're talking about conference tournaments, is the margin for error is so slim now. So slim that you've got to bring it.
And just a reminder, up next, it's LSU and Tennessee as we continue our triple header here on this Sunday. First time that the Tigers have been ranked in the top 10 since 2009, and what a turnaround job that Hall of Famer Kim Mulkey has done in Baton Rouge. Russell on the take. Well, Jeff Walls finds himself in similar company as UConn in terms of dominance. You talk about strings of wins, and when this one concludes, they will have won each of the last 6 against Notre Dame, and they join the Huskies in Tennessee to be the only teams to have beaten the Irish 6 times in a row. And so for Notre Dame, they'll see their perfect season at home come to an end, while Louisville will advance to 25-3 on the season. Again, they will await the winner of that NC State Virginia Tech game, because the Cardinals could get a share of their 5th regular season title in the ACC.
I mean, this is the kind of game that you want to play if you're Jeff Walls heading into the ACC tournament. The way that Van Lith, Smith, Angsler shot the basketball, but in combination of their defense. It's already tough enough to score on Louisville, but to defend the way that they ran their offense today, that's...
Whew. They looked scary good. So final seconds in this ball game as Louisville, with a dominating performance on the road. And Steffi, you talked about it already, Louisville and how good they are, but where does then Notre Dame go from here as they both enter the conference tournament next week?
Well, they got to erase this from their memory, because they're still a very good basketball team. A lot of talent, a lot of youth, and you know, Louisville's just was the better team today. But moving forward, Notre Dame still has an opportunity to host the NCAA tournament first 2 rounds.
86-64, the final coming up next. We have more women's hoops with LSU taking on Tennessee. For Steffi Sorensen, I'm Tiffany Green. First, let's get you to the studio update with John Brickley, Hall of Famer Rebecca Lobo, Andy Landers, and Charlie Cream.